hold on.
Where are those places here?
Take this.
All right. So why don't we kick it off? This is USTSA Team Meeting on March 7th of 2023, just in case we keep these recordings for any longer period of time.
Thanks so much.
I wanted to get this meeting going so we can talk about.
Sit around and drink coffee and fix guitars and talk about
If you have background noise, put yourself on mute.
Jeff Grady, can you please go on mute? Thank you.
Sorry about that. All right. So what I wanted to do by having this meeting is I wanted to kind of talk to everybody about what happened at Nationals and kind of what do we do going forward. And the big one is with our challenge with communication this year. What we wanted to do, moving towards Nationals, is we wanted to make sure we had a good Nationals, because the big element is we don't want to have people coming from many different regions, both Canada and Colorado, for a number of participants that was not going to be enough to warrant bringing people out. And through the communication challenges we had, we really weren't able to get the advertising for Nationals going until about 3 to 4 weeks out. And that's not enough time to get anybody outside of just this grouping to be involved in Nationals. And so when I put feelers out to who might be coming, I was worried that we were going to see numbers well under 35 and potentially even under 20. And so the challenge there is if we hold a Nationals with 20 and the ski areas are looking at, they want to see 50 or 60 at the minimum. And we could only tell them 35. It's not big enough. So our big risk is by holding a Nationals that has a lack of participation is we will burn the bridge of the referees and the TDs and the required positions we need to have. We will also burn the bridge of another ski area, and not just one ski area. It's like when you burn the bridge of a ski area in the east, they all talk to each other. It's not a very big group. All the coaches know each other across all the different ski areas. There's only so many TDs that can do this. And so they start communicating with each other. And every time an event doesn't go well, our challenge is it makes it harder and harder to keep growing. And so through keeping us afloat, I made, it wasn't unilateral, but I made the call that we needed to cancel Nationals. And that's the big one. It's like, if we ran Nationals this year, we risked us going bankrupt as we move forward. And that's a big issue. And although we weren't going to go bankrupt this year, if we burned another ski area that allows us to potentially grow, I don't know, that would use up New Hampshire. Vermont's already gone for the most part because of Vail. And so that's the challenges I've experienced. And I know there's been a lot of challenges with everybody else. And so what I'd like to do now is kind of open it up. Before we start looking at how we move forward, I want to look it up and open it up to everybody on the group to start. What were some of the challenges that you experienced that we can help iron out to move forward?
Keith, can you elaborate on that that kind of threshold thing where mountains, don't want less than a certain number there? What's the big problem for them?
Money. So they see events based on a per head and not a dollar amount. So when they see,
even if you pay for more people that are there, it's still an issue.
They want to see 500.
Yeah.
Not 500. So 150.
Yeah.
That's kind of their their positive trigger. Anything under 150 for them is not a successful. There's no logical reason behind it. Money's money. Who cares how they get it? But they want to try to make more money. Most ski areas will do a per head racer rather than a total number. And so it's about 80, I think it is, covers the hill fees, everything else. But beyond that, for USSA and other events like that, is profit to the ski area. So it's, it's profit and loss. And that's the big challenge. Anybody else have any thoughts, questions, stuff that was challenging for them that I can start making note of?
Do we have a list of mountains that are like sort of still in our good graces?
It's a small number. Yes, I have a bunch. Most of them are easy way to think about it is they're Indy Pass mountains. They're independent ski areas. And Vail Mountains, Vail doesn't want to see anything. They don't really care about ski racing, Vail. They're about ticket sales and stuff like that. And so the mountains that are still, like USSA is having a hard time with them as well. And they have, on the East Coast, a USSA race is between 150 and 400 racers per event. And although that would be fun. Jeff Grady was talking about friends that work at Loveland in their race department. That's always a good idea. Our challenge we had with events out west, Eldora is still on board with the idea of nationals. But when we looked at doing nationals, not nationals, but an in-season race out at Eldora this year, our numbers were around 15. And what they don't want to do is put in that much effort for 15 people. They're like, yeah, it's a lot of work for not enough participation. So we didn't really move forward on yes, we could have pushed to run an event, but for 15 people, from my standpoint and from Jeff Gay and Ken Gay's standpoint, that's a lot of effort for us to do for a half a day's work. It takes 3 or 4 days of being there, getting things out. It takes a lot of work to set it up, and it's a lot of effort for a little return.
I think I'm wondering, can you hear me, Keith?
Yep, you're good. Go ahead.
I'm wondering if maybe next year we concentrate on trying to coordinate with telemark festivals, even though the race might not be sanctioned. It's just having a race to get more participants, of a race of some kind at this point.
And I think that's a very, very good idea to start thinking about. And like those ideas are things I need a piece of paper to write down different notes. Really? And those are things that I want to really start looking at, is how do we get people interested in what we've got going on for the future. Right now, for this moment, at this part of the call, I want to try to keep us towards the challenges that we had this year. And, so the challenge I have is I only know what challenges I experienced and a few other people. I need to hear from all of you to find out what were some of the challenges you experienced. Did everybody get a contract? I need to know what's missing because I don't have a lot of that information.
I'm going to jump in, and communication, as we all well know, is a serious issue. And we really need to get on top of that. Not only communication from the board out to the team, but then expanding that out so that we can get promotion and things going. But without contracts, without responses to emails, without a site that works where we can actually pay into the contract, pay fees, whatever, we've got no way of confirming our membership and collecting any funds from which to go forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of second that, Tabby. I got a nomination letter, but Mia did not. So when I reached out about the lack of her letter, I didn't get a response. Email, text. I called Keith. He, answered and said, "Oh, no problem. Mia's in," but then there was no letter, so there was no process for her to, accept any nomination, and we just sort of dropped it because without any events, races on the schedule, I thought, well, why bother? And sadly, we just kind of skipped the season. Yeah, I think we need to figure out a way to prevent that happening again.
Anybody else? More?
Yeah, I would echo what Tabby and Steve said, just kind of functionality and communication.
And if somebody does have more thoughts as we move forward here with a call tonight, please jump in. Oh, Jeff Grady would like to help doing more West Coast stuff. I will absolutely take you up on that, Jeff. So here's the plan. So right now, excuse me, as I'm going to jump to my calendar so I can confirm the potential dates for nationals next year. For nationals next year, we have chosen the 4th through the 7th is the tentative dates for next year's nationals at Gunstock. And one of the things we did is we kept it at Gunstock to give us a year to advertise and get things ready. And really, instead of waiting until last minute, giving ourselves a long period of time to really get the word out. Because, if you look at it, there's many people in this group, Jeff Grady, and others who are not on the East Coast. In order for them to come east, and in order for people to plan, they need to know, worst case October on how to set up their winter. Because people take time off from their vacations, and I know any parent on this call tonight, any kid on this call tonight knows you need to organize time, and that's the big one. Is we need enough time to not only advertise, but to have people organize their winter so they can include this event. And so having, I like to look at it, knowing the solid dates 6 months out, or as close as the USSA will allow us to do, will make it much easier for us to get a larger participation. And that's the big one. So right now, again, I'm going to bring it up. Our tentative dates for nationals is March 4th through the 7th of next year. That won't be 100% confirmed until after the USSA calendar comes out in August to September, but we are planning to do it Monday through Thursday. And what the Monday through Thursday does, I know it's not as convenient for everybody, but Sarah Godek and I and me and a few other ski area managers talked about it. Monday through Friday, ski areas don't have USSA races going on. They have a lull in their schedules. And so we may be looking at maybe a Friday event or a Sunday, Monday event for in-season races, because it's like, as much as I don't want to, telemark is not the thing that ski areas need to generate revenue. They need the USSA races. They need the USASA freestyle events. And we take a huge backseat to them. And so we may have to think about it like, can we run a 20 to 30 person event on a Monday. And that's the big ones. Maybe we get more participation doing it that way rather than we can on a Saturday, even though I know Saturday is when most people have free time. So that's kind of the stress. And then looking to 2025, our intention is to bring it back to Eldora again, is the hope. And what I plan to do, what I want to try to do for the team with all of your help is to try to stack up events further out than just starting in September. You know, like we can't confirm a lot of the stuff until that current year's calendar is set, but we can start doing the conversations. Like a good example, in order to run a World Cup race, you got to start the conversation 2 years before the event's even held. You know, so these are things we can set in motion beforehand. And you know, by having events where we have a couple options, gives us a little leeway in time, we're more likely to be able to get more than 1 or 2 or 3 events going on per season. And that's the big one. Anybody have any thoughts or questions on the potential nationals?
I have a question about training events, which is a little bit off
Yes.
topic, but is that also on the table for December?
I'm working on that. So I've had, this is not a communication problem with US Tele. This was a communication problem with ski areas. So when I reached out to 4 different ski areas for training, I got the, we'll call it the Heisman or the cold shoulder or the brush off. They did not want to have events. And I've had much greater luck and looking at stuff like that going forward. You know, so the fun one is we very likely can have a training event at Haystack. And I'm trying to go as far as maybe looking at having training events more than just close to me. But, you know, like running a training event over at Ragged, running a training event out west, you know, trying to get a little more variation on the schedule. You know, a lot of times if we run an event on a Monday, we can very likely be able to run a training on a Sunday. And so there's a bunch of things I'm looking into, and any help I can have from anybody on this call and more, even better. I know for those who've been involved for a while, remember Josh Lanzetta, and he has reached out to the team expressing some interest to start getting back involved and lending a hand to help us try to grow what we've got going on. So, you know, there's good potential there. But it really, all of this boils down to the ski industry is changing, and we're just trying to figure out how we fit into that change.
Yeah, I'll just add that training events generally have happened in December, which it's great to plan and schedule something, but most resorts don't even know if they're going to have snow, you know, in the month of December. So that's a challenge. But you know, for in-season events, I think it would be helpful if people reached out to their home resorts, talk to the event coordinator people, try to, you know, plant a seed. And yes, they're all subject to the USAA calendar. USSA, I've been in touch with Jamie Cobbett at Waterville Valley. He's like, sure, we'd love to have you guys back, but it's all dependent on the, you know, that calendar. So we have to be bugging them in August, September, whenever that USSA calendar comes out, and see what kind of scraps are left for us.
And now to help is, we don't want to be reaching out to them in August and September we want to be reaching out to them in March saying, hey, we really, because we want the bug in their ear. So when August and September roll around, they're aware that we're interested. So like in March, you start coordinating, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is what we're, trying to get put together, whether it be a training, whether it be a race with all the features, whether it's just a basic race, whatever we need to do. And whatever we can kind of generate from them. And then by the time August and September roll around, we're not dealing logistics, we're dealing dates. Hey, what do you have available? Okay, is it 2 dates? Is it 1 date? Is it just a ski with the public? Whatever it might be, type of thing. So by the time the schedule comes out, we're just kind of dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And that's the big one, because USSA, those coaches are already racing out. They're reaching out right now to the ski areas. Okay, we're doing this race on this day. They're setting the schedule right now. It's just not published until August or September.
One thing that I do know of is there's a little bit more positive interest from Hermitage to be able to do some things on a Friday, because our Fridays have been fairly quiet. And since it's a private resort, there's no other USSA events at the resort that go on at all. Next season is going to have a little bit more race focus with a few different coaches that are coming in. But we may have some flexibility to even jump in if we get some good snow on an ad hoc Friday, just gathering a few people together.
Yeah.
So,
And these are things that, as people get ideas, I really encourage everybody, send me your ideas. Send the ideas to the board. That way we can start get the ball rolling. We can, the thing that helps is if you're at a ski area, Waterville, Mount Snow, Haystack, Eldora, what we need is the person on the ground nearby to help bridge the gap in communication with us. Because the way we sell tele is not internet. It's going to be in-person communication and being adaptable and flexible to their needs. And that's kind of the tool that we need to really grow going forward. And pulling those people out of the woodwork that don't know that they're interested. That's the fun one. So I know one of the things going forward that I want to do, because we're not meeting in person in the next, I can't do it. Like, I can't be involved in the next 2 weeks because I'm just flat out crazy. But I want to do a Zoom board meeting for all voting members. Because without nationals, we're really not going to get together. And by you guys sending me information, I can then put things up to vote, because we need to readjust how we're doing things. So communication between the board and the athletes and the board and the members is very regular and open. So you guys can see what's going on. So more importantly, so you guys can see where we need help. That sound adequate to everybody? Now, granted, I can only see 6 heads nodding at a time, but that's due to my screen. It's my phone I'm looking at because I couldn't get my computer started. But one of the things I want to do is I want to encourage, because COVID put us on a Zoom comfortable environment. Oh, hold on. I'm going to take a look. We've had a couple questions pop in here. So Chris Jensen reached out and she was saying she wants to understand better what kind of help can be given. You know, sometimes it could be as simple as communicating with the local shops. Hey, we've got a race coming up in, you know, in early season. You drop it out and you let them know, hey, we've got stuff going on. As simple as whether it be flyers, but it's helping us get the word out there. It could be as simple as, you know, for instance, one of the athletes that was going to come to nationals, Emma Poper, she is in Syracuse, New York, and she doesn't have a car because she's not allowed to have a car this year. And so if nationals were going to happen, we were going to coordinate a ride conveniently by somebody coming from that environment over to New Hampshire. And, you know, it could be something along that line. We don't have specific things we need help with yet, because we have to kind of look at how we're doing things and kind of readjust so we're able to communicate with everybody effectively, consistently, and openly.
Keith, can you go back to a comment you made earlier, which is you want to put a few more things on the calendar sooner rather than later for next ski season in advance of nationals? So
yep,
if you take a mountain that you think you have a good shot at, maybe it's Haystack like Tabby recommended, or any other Northeast mountain, or even on the West Coast.
Yep.
You have a number of athletes and parents on this call that I think would love to see racing happen and are shoulder to shoulder to support you. What do
Yep.
you need from everyone on this call that would, you know, when you pick up the phone, that would help you? Is it number of racers? Is it initial deposit that, you know, what financial, what do you need from this group here that could help you put things on the calendar sooner and with more certainty? Because I think everyone on this call wants to race.
Yeah. I'd love to race, but I got too much to do.
Or see athletes race, I should say.
Let me do a little side note. Jason ran Bromley and never fell, but that's neither here nor there. So one of the things we need to do is we need bodies. Our biggest hurdle is racers at the top of the course when the course is starting. You know, nationals, we kind of wing it. Nationals, when we kind of wing it, we need to, you know, we usually tell them about 35, and we've been really lucky the last few years to get, you know, quite a bit more. But it's, you know, the fewer the racers we have, the harder it is for a resort to want to go. And as much as dollars would be the deciding factor, they don't look at dollars as an exact thing. They look at numbers. And, you know, that equates to dollars. But when you say, well, we'll pay all the fees, and they go, they're looking at not just the fees, but the profit margin. And so that's, you know, number of racers coming down. And with a tele race, you know, it takes a fair amount of effort it takes more effort to put on a telemark race than it does an Alpine GS race. So the challenge is it takes bodies, and without bodies, that's our challenge. But it's, you know, this is not a challenge that's new. One of the reasons we're not in the Olympics, one of the many reasons, but one of the reasons is we do not show enough participation worldwide to get the job done. There are many other reasons, but that's one of the ones that they keep quoting.
So on that, Keith, and not to prolong this, but it would behoove, I think, the organization to anoint the team sooner, so you know who's committed, and that'll give you numbers well in advance.
Yeah. So, and like, I haven't set out word yet, But one of the things we need to do, something that in the past, so when we ordered gear, uniforms and speed suits, and extra incidentals, most of that was done after we've done the vote. The problem is that's not how the ski industry works. The ski industry works, right now, retailers have already placed their orders for next year. And, you know, I've at least been able to push it off till the end of March. But like, if we want to be able to get any gear, anything specific, you know, like a underlayer for racing, we need to, things have to happen in a much sooner pace than we're doing. Like, for instance, team nominations, and this year it's going to be it's complex. It's the simplest it's going to be this year, because we don't have points to fill out, and you know, the points calculations aren't as simple as just ye who wins gets first point. There's formulas, so it takes a little bit to get those points done. But we can't wait until midsummer to do team nominations, because sponsors have used up all their sponsor dollars long before we even get to that point. And so it's like, if we want to try to find new sponsors, we need to be approaching them in January. If we want to deal with existing sponsors, we need to have that information to them usually by the 15th of March. Now, no team manages that timeline, and so they guess. And uniforms wise, you guys have known in the past, I go around, you know, how's it fitting? And so I kind of take a guess on how many pieces we need. And I haven't done that yet, but I'm about to do that in the next day or so. Reach out to see if anybody needs pieces. I currently have a bunch of coats, a handful of speed suits, more pants than I know what to do with. If anybody needs a size junior 4, I got 2 pairs of those for some reason. But you know, it's, if we wait and delay announcements to the team, what I'm able to do when it comes to sponsors is very, very limited. You know, it's, the other one is, you know, for instance, I'll use Sam Garber, or Jed, who couldn't make the call because he's actually currently racing right now, or I don't know, he's asleep right now. It's like 2 a.m. there, but he is racing this weekend. And the challenge they have is, in order to plan for World Cup, you know, people need to kind of start organizing when you're in school about 6 months out. And so the sooner we can get the team nominations out, I'm hoping get the nomination letters out by early mid-June.
Well, Keith, I even think the virtual AGM that you're talking about doing in 2 or 3 weeks is a great opportunity for us to announce the teams. They're going to be very similar to this past season, with the exception of age considerations. So anybody that either aged out of the team from this past year, or was held back from a potential nomination that they would have been eligible for because they weren't old enough over the past year. So there is the opportunity to do it even sooner, and to do it in a public forum if we choose to.
Yeah, and I think that's a great plan. I'm thinking basically the first week of April for that, because it's the soonest I can do any long meeting. Between now and the 1st of April, I have one evening not booked with something. It's a weird year for me. If you're interested in what it is, I'll email you. But you know, there are some things we need to change. We know we need to get better at communication. We need to get more events, so we need to get more participation. Hold on, I'm trying to.
Question, just wondering out loud here, why we're not seeing, with the exception of Jeff, many Western team members. Oh, and Chris,
Oh.
sorry.
So there are, Jeff. So the national team, Jeff's there, but we have Jeff Grady and a few other Masters team people. They're really the Western contingent is slowly dwindling as they graduate or move on. But we have, like Jed's over at World Cup right now. We have 2 French American athletes that have joined us this year. They're, there's a bunch of people that are over at World Cup. I believe Sam Garber's in there too. That's why he's not on the call tonight. And I am like, to help, there are people posting in the chat. And my skills are not in reading the chats and communicating at the same time. So if there's anything that you can ask outwardly, that would be great. I'm thinking of Devin.
What I was just throwing out there is, prior to the to our AGM meeting, I think, there's some, I think it behooves us to have some deeper, bigger conversations, more foundational conversations about even the format of what we're doing. At this point, like the teams have been, for some events, have been 75% of the racers on the course, and at some point, the amount of money we're spending on uniforms and all that stuff, I think, we need to have like a holistic conversation about what this interim, because now we're basically 3 seasons without racing, and it doesn't seem like any of the conditions in the ski resorts, which have been the primary barriers, are going to get any better. The annual general meeting, Rich. Basically, when we have that meeting, I think we do need to have some serious conversation about what is sort of a interim plan for the organization. And it's not really pleasant to talk about, but at this point we're kind of a skeleton of what we were, and until we get numbers back up, it's one thing leads to the other, right? We can't get numbers up, then we can't get events, which doesn't help get our numbers up. So we're gonna have to do some out of the box stuff, I think, realistically.
Yeah, and that's where we need to couple the ideas that have been floated around over the last couple of weeks, where if a team member is at a Masters race racing, and we get when we start including that into our points as a team member, because there are ways to do just a normal GS race for points, and just other ways to get visibility. The best way to grow telemark is for people to see it and ask questions about it. I love the idea of teaming up more and more with the festivals. Jeff Grady wants a kick-ass promotional video. So Jeff, do you want to help make one? He'll shoot it. So that's kind of the idea there. I know I want to try to have a board meeting specifically next week. I haven't reached out to the board on that, but we need to have a meeting in the next week before I leave for Europe on the 23rd. We need to have a board meeting so we can talk about kind of how we readjust so communication improves, so transparency improves, and stuff like that. I
have a
don't
question.
have.
Can I derail you for a second there, Keith?
Please, definitely.
I have a question about the website. I feel like that's the go-to place for people who want information about what we do and who we are. And it's frustrating that it hasn't been updated in several years. So I'm just curious to know if that's on your radar as far as priorities.
It is very much on my radar. And what it is once Linda Hobbs retired for that position, there's a lot of information that has been piled onto very few people. And so keeping up with the workload has been a challenge. And so what we're doing is we're going to try to figure out how to readjust and spread that out and get it so multiple people can have access to multiple points. So we don't have the same clog of information like we did last time.
We're gonna fix
this
the
past time.
website.
Hey,
Awesome.
Keith, I've offered this to you before. Theo can't serve on the board because he's too young, but he does a lot of coding and builds a lot of websites. So he will volunteer through me to you.
Same here. I will all volunteer yet again, as I do every year, to help with this. And quite a few other software and everything from email to communication to all of that.
Oh, nice. Excellent. Now, I will say so the original president for US Telemark, USTSA, is still running, is the host for our website. And so I know there's history there. And so I know we're not looking to move the website, but we do, I mean, there's a fair amount of stuff we can update, histories and bios and other things. And, you know, for the people that have expressed interest, one of the things we need to do is go through the website and take a look at the connections and find out, what do we need to reconnect? Where, what do we need to update? Kind of make a list of what we need to adjust.
Number one would be financial functionality. If
No,
we cannot
make
pay,
a list. Make a list.
that's number one.
We don't need it's not a short list. Make a list. All right. So we are rounding the 45-minute mark on the call. Outside of challenges, let's switch over to the icky part, moving, how do we, readjusting. So I know, so the board's going to have a call and we're going to talk about in depth where things went wrong and what we need to do to fix our communication and fix our transparency and figure out what we want to do to move forward and adapt so we can, as a sport and as a organization, stay viable. And I haven't made that, we don't know when we're doing that call yet. I'm going to reach out to the board members that aren't on tonight, and we're going to coordinate and figure out when that is. So that way, when we go to the general meeting, let's call it the first week of April. I think the first week of April, is there anybody that has anything going on the first week of April that really wants to be on that call that can't be? Good. So first week of April, why don't we say, I'm going to write this down, Tuesday night, first week April, which is April, hold on, April 4th.
April 4th.
Yeah, I had to look it up. So that is the call there. I'm going to try to reach out to the board to make sure that all the board members can officially make it before I send out a call, a Zoom confirmation on that, and we'll go from there. Anybody have any thoughts or questions they need to bring up, oh, as I jump over to.
I would just say like Mark said, we all want to race. And so, if the board's running into hurdles with certain things, communication, make sure the communication is going both ways, and let us know what you need us to do.
Yeah.
If someone's in striking distance of a mountain and you need somebody to go out there and talk to somebody, let us know if there's something we can do. I mean, a lot of that, for me in particular, I know I'm sort of uncomfortable talking to the mountains because I don't really know how all this goes. So I want to make sure I'm telling them the right things and that
yeah.
kind of thing.
One of the good ones is I'm in a pretty, at least on the east, I'm in a pretty good position to reach out to almost any ski area to start the communication. And once the communication's underway, what it is so like if we were to do Gore, oh, Sarah Carly, I like that text. Yeah, I'm going to talk to the board first, the board members before we make, sorry, I'm sidetracking. I'm going to talk to the board members first before we confirm Tuesday the 4th, because we need to make sure the board members are on that call. But once we do confirm that, then we'll set it and go. Stefan, what we'll do is the idea is reach out, get communication started. And then, for instance, if we're at Gore, for me to get over to Gore or Sarah Carly or Sarah Godick or, any of the people that have had a chance to get their hands in developing a race. The problem is it's 3 or 4 hours of driving. And so what we need is we don't necessarily need somebody to spark the conversation, but we need somebody to help continue the conversation. Can you be there and take a look at the wrap? Is the wrap where we need it to be? It's simple little things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So we can, it'd be great to have somebody else organizing the event primarily, but it's, what we need is to hold events somewhere. We need somebody on the ground near the ski area that can put time in, but they got to run up there for the day.
Hey, Keith.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Before we run out of time here, I just wanted to say that I think that Devin brought up a pretty salient point, and it may be somewhat echoed by Sam, considering, rejoining USSA or finding other alternatives for that infrastructure that is causing us so much problems, right? Like building a wrap, a jump, et cetera, bringing enough racers.
Yep.
So for maybe the AGM meeting, I'd like to see perhaps an agenda item specific to kind of visioning what USTSA is going to do moving forward. I think we've built up our World Cup team very successfully. We need races. That's my opinion. And I think at that meeting, we should perhaps try and think a little bit outside the box, maybe return to some, kind of previous infrastructure solve that race problem. Anyway, there you go. Before we run out of time.
That's great. To let everybody know, I'm using a felt tip pen that smells like raspberries, and it's very weird. But I am keeping notes of that way, because our secretary is not on tonight. I think that was Jeff, but we don't have. So I'm taking notes to make sure that we have things like, for instance, Mark, you were saying that our vision going forward, and maybe looking at some of the older formats of races, even open, other opportunities, because it is first and foremost bodies at the event, and the more we can make it accessible, the more we're going to grow.
So, and to that point, I know I've talked to some tele skiers, Waterville Valley, and I get the sense they might be a little intimidated about the jump and the wrap and all the features of a classic telemark race. A lot of resorts have NASTAR set up. It's already there, and it's pretty simple. I think people would be less intimidated by skiing through a simple GS NASTAR course. So maybe that's something we could look at.
And these are because still in the guide is slalom, GS. There are more than just sprint, classic, and parallel. You know, we still have slalom and GS. Even Super Telly still in there, but that's for those who don't know, Super Telly is a classic race with obstacle course type things in there. Could be, you know, the wide assortment of stuff. Those things are still in there and they're still possible. You know, for instance, at Bromley, for those who weren't able to make that, we, due to the environment of Mother Nature, a wrap was not a built up element. And, you know, okay, great. So we were able to run it without a wrap. You know, we did a skating wrap, a flat wrap, you know, so there's still that loop-de-loop, but you know, those are things that we don't have to put in there. And if you run an event that doesn't require uphill or skating, we can open it up to all disciplines. That's the other benefit is, you know, people are going to want to see, they're going to see telly and they go, hey, I want to try that. And that's, you know, where it really boils down to. And the more opportunities we set ourselves, the more we're going to grow.
Hey, can I ask, there's been a lot of reference. Can you remind us who is currently on the board and has the board been active this year in any way?
So currently on the board, we have Sarah Carley as our president. I'm the vice president. Jason is our treasurer. And then it gets a little fuzzy for me. Somebody help me. What is Jeff's role?
Jeff Gay and Sarah Ellen Godak are events directors. Devin Wright is secretary. And did you already say Jason Naylor as treasurer? Yep. Okay.
And then we have Ken Gay, who's not officially a board member, but sits in frequently because he is our FIS representative. He's also one of the top race credentialed referees in the country for both Alpine. He is the only one for Telly, but he is also top official for Alpine.
So I had a question kind of similar to, I'm blanking on people's names, but I suspect Magic Mountain and Granite Gorge would both be interested in having helmet races. What, is there something I can do to get that conversation started?
Let's see here. Hold on, let me. First, I got to spell gorge right. Magic's a little easier since it's a fully functioning ski resort. Granite Gorge, on the other hand, in New Hampshire, right near Keene, the challenge they have is, how do I describe this? They've been strip mined. So they changed hands and they stripped a lot of Granite Gorge. So there's a lot of clutter in the way of Granite Gorge. So we could reach out to them, but I don't know what we have access to at Granite Gorge. But what's nice though is Magic and Granite Gorge are places where Telemark Down, one of our primary sponsors, can be involved and bring gear. So that part's good. What we'd want to do is start reaching out to Magic and Granite Gorge and start talking to them. Hey, we're interested in hosting a race. Is there anything, you know, what would you, you know, what do you need from us to start the ball rolling? And I could, I just don't have time right now. I can at least get the names of the people to contact on both Magic and Granite Gorge. Hold on. Rich, you're on mute.
I don't have anything to say.
Oh, okay. I just saw.
So my
You just
lips
happened to
moving?
be on my screen and I saw your mouth moving.
It's always moving.
So why don't we do this? I would like to keep these conversations going via text, not text, via email. Going forward, I, as the board, specifically myself, I'm going to make sure we reach out to the whole team. Off season, I would say at least once a month. And it's really more email once a month. And then as a team, once we make the team nominations, we're going to have a team meeting. And because one of the things that we have a big challenge is some of the athletes are really good at returning contracts. But over the decades, many teammates suck at doing contracts and we have to chase them. Technology's allowed us so we're a little more interactive. So things that don't require a lot of effort to get the contracts done, make it a little easier. But I want to reach out that way. Those team members who haven't had a chance to do it, we can help light a fire. And then the next team call would be preseason. And probably October-ish to kind of light a fire saying, hey, what are you guys doing for, sorry, I got like 5 texts rolling here at once, but maybe preseason to get going, to help kind of show that we're trying to communicate. Let's see. I'm writing it down. And then what I want to try to make sure we do is to all members, we need to make sure we communicate every month. And, so a general membership meeting, not a meeting, but a general membership email, I'm hoping to go out every month. Even if it's just a letter reiterating where we are. Once we get into the season, I want to make sure we're reaching out more than once a month to the athletes and the families. That way we keep communication going. For advertising purposes, the more often we send out information, the more useful it is to a point. And so the more the board stays in touch with the athletes and the families, the better we'll do at seeing when small issues arise. Like for instance, I remember one year we sent out the team contracts and 2 people got left off. Well, if we have a meeting fairly regularly, we are going to catch those people and we won't wait 3 or 4 months to find out that they didn't get in there. The fact that Steve Wegler, that Mia didn't get a contract, if we're reaching out to you more often, that's going to be caught quickly rather than a long delay. All right, why don't we do this? Unless anybody has any thoughts or questions, why don't we wrap it up for the evening? And what we'll do is we'll reconvene tentatively on Tuesday, April 4th. And I'll confirm that once we reach out to the board members who are they're in between transit and they can't communicate tonight. And then once we have that confirmation, I'll send out a Zoom link and we'll go from there.
Right.
I see thumbs up and other fun things.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you all
Great to see
very,
everyone.
very much for jumping on tonight.
Thanks,
And hopefully going forward, we'll get communication up and running and we'll readjust so we can grow.
Thanks, Keith. Nice work.
All right. Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone. Good to see everyone.
Thanks, Keith. Take care, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Keith.